100%. And when you think about it, your typical professional who works, say, let's just say 40 years of their life. How much time do they really spend job searching or trying to get to a new? I mean, it is it's a single digit portion. It doesn't even cross people's mind until they have to do it most of the time, until there's some cause that's causing them to have to do it. So then they go and they take a look and they try to figure it out on the spot, and nobody really knows how to do it most effectively.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Pedro, and today's guest is Larry Lebofsky, founder of Way Beyond Resumes and a FinTech career strategist with 25 years in executive recruiting. Larry helps FinTech professionals get clear on what they want next and navigate career transitions with a calm, insider-driven strategy. Having worked with companies like Income, OnDeck, Green Dot, and Payoneer, he brings a rare perspective from both agency and in-house recruiting on how hiring decisions are really made. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thanks, Pedro. You made me sound pretty good there.
Awesome. And it's great to have you, And, I like to backtrack a little bit, rewind a bit, because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? The origin story. So when was that for you?
Well, really, the last 7-8 years, I've been helping people. Started with helping them with their resumes. Got sick of the agency thing after about 20 something years and was ready for something new. So did a little bit of consulting, but it seemed more and more what I was doing was helping people kind of navigate the whole maze of job searching. And I wasn't really thinking about it in official capacity, but it kind of, I found myself doing it before I even knew it was a thing.
And when did it shift, from I'm helping people and using the tools and helping them with the maze of job searching, like you said, to I'm building a real business around this?
Really, the past year, did I really get serious and start carving time out in the evenings and weekends and bringing on clients, dedicating time to them one-on-one. But so it really got official the past year. I would say about a year into the pandemic is really where it started to truly shift. 2 years into the pandemic, because if you recall, nobody got hired for a year, and then everybody got hired for a year. And then everything kind of slowed down and got a little bit weird, and people weren't sure what was I doing wrong, what happened. So that's where I really jumped in and started showing people, hey, this is what's really happening. I've worked on the HR side, thousands of hires, and this is how you really want to go about playing this game. So that's when it really started clicking in my mind.
And after it got rolling, right? Who are the people that kept showing up? Because at the early stages in coaching, we see a lot of coaches trying to help everyone, right? Embrace the entire world. But I want to understand, who are the ones that you realize, okay, this is my tribe. These are my people.
Yeah. So I really believe in sticking to what I want to give as much value as possible. I mean, the things that I help people with are probably universal strategies and tactics, but I want to be able to do a little bit extra, have some insight into the companies that they're interested in. So I stick to payments and FinTech technology, typically people based in the United States and Canada, usually somewhat established in the field. So let's say 10 years in, any level, any type of position. I mean, 10 years in, they're obviously going to not be entry level, but sales, product, marketing, senior level, executive, anything in between, as long as it's in and around that industry.
Interesting. It's like they're trying to break through a ceiling, that they hit a point in their career that they're like somewhat established, but they want to get to the next level, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, half of my clients are people who are working today and fully employed and looking for a plan B. And then the other half are new to the job search market, probably haven't looked in a few years, got laid off, something happened, worked out a severance, and now they're looking at LinkedIn, at advice that's all over the place, and quite frankly are looking for some kind of grounding, what's real, where do we start, and so forth. Some people trying to get to the next level, working with them on how do you build your brand internally in the company in order to move up. These things, some companies teach that, most companies don't.
Okay, awesome. Okay, that's the coaching side. Now let's talk about the part nobody escapes, right? Marketing. So how do people usually find you? Those fintech guys or the other type of person that's looking for, breakthrough, but how do they tend to find you?
LinkedIn, the content that I post, word of mouth. I mean, I got into LinkedIn really, really early. So I've always been an avid user. And I know everybody you probably interview is an avid user, but this is actually a kind of funny story. I once had a candidate, and this is going back 20 years, who was one of the first 10 employees of LinkedIn. She was their first chief administrative officer. When I did a reference on her, Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, was actually the reference, and I got to talk with him, about this candidate. And this was before LinkedIn was even born, but by virtue of meeting her in her own job search, she stuck me on an early beta. So I was one of the first few thousands of people who, got in and, was and this tells you something about my personality. I didn't even want to share it with anybody in my agency. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. This is going to change anything. And I didn't even want anyone to know about it but me until I got the maximum benefit from it. But yeah, LinkedIn is a big one. Just client word of mouth, being active in the industry. I do a lot of meetings with job searchers and different cohorts. I was just on a call with somebody who's following the advice from the book, Never Search Alone. Part of what he was learning was reaching out to, coaches and people in that world. So really marketing, whatever I put into it, I pull out of it.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, let's talk business for a second. So people find you, right? Through referrals, through LinkedIn, you were a beta user. I mean, that's awesome. And let's say they resonate with your work, right? And eventually they want to know what working with you actually looks like, Larry. Everyone builds their coaching business a bit differently. So when someone actually becomes a client, right? So what does that experience look like right now?
Yeah. So before they become a client, I mean, I spend a solid hour with them and really do, I call it a search audit. So, what is going on? What are you trying to do? And then let's walk it back. What are you doing now? Where's that leading to, et cetera? I mean, try to dissect every possible thing I can about what they're doing. What I'm really looking for is, can I truly help this person, or is this more, hey, you just need your resume updated, you're doing it fine, or hey, two pieces of advice I think are going to turn around, everything. So I'm looking for people who really need either hands-on coaching, accountability, complete mindset shift, whatever, I have no idea what networking, is really capable of. So I'm bringing people on who I make sure I can deliver to. And then after that, there's manuals, there's workbooks, but it's really about the weekly meeting. We start meeting for an hour every week, and then that tapers off into 30 minutes. But I'm trying to be there through every single aspect of their search. I tell some people, it's, if you're familiar with, in sales and marketing, you have a sales enablement person who they work with, who is really putting together on the spot materials as they need it in real time to get in front of customers. That's what I consider myself doing, sales enablement. And my clients are selling and marketing themselves.
I mean, right. Your work seems pretty hands-on, right? We're talking about LinkedIn content. We're talking about, on top of that, we were talking before, is like you have a full-time job. So how do you think about capacity? So don't stretch yourself too thin.
Yeah, that's the number one thing on my mind. Yes, capacity, because again, working full time. So, 6 o'clock rolls around. I put on my costume and start doing the consulting and, meetings and, goes into weekends. Yeah. Yeah. Capacity at this point is difficult. I mean, AI makes things easier, rabid. I wouldn't even say avid. I would say rabid user. And teaching that to my clients. But it's a double-edged sword because yes, it's hard to grow past a certain extent, but at the same time, the people I'm working with get everything because I'm not taking on more than one or two people on, any given month.
Okay. So, one thing I want to highlight here and tap into your experience is a hot topic I would call is pricing, right? And we're not talking about, right, about hard numbers or something like that. It's because it is more like a self-worth path, especially for a service-based industries, right? Like, am I charging enough? Am I charging too much? So how do you think it about it today, And were there any lessons along the way that shaped how you landed where you are?
So when it comes to pricing, I mean, I consulted other career coaches, got a sense of, really what is common in the market. I didn't want to just throw something out. One lesson learned was people get more out of it. Clients get more out of it when they do enter a model where they're paying up front. They want to make it worthwhile. They've paid it. They want to extract the value. They're typically more motivated, more locked into the strategy, more likely to follow up, to meet every week, not make excuses, and to really hold themselves accountable. And it's not just me. So that is one thing I found extremely valuable. Learned that through another coach.
That's a solid look on how you approach pricing structure. I like that. You're comparing, but not really comparing, just to have a sense of things, right? Now, I'm curious about where you're taking all this, right, Larry? Looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
I still think of it some ways in when I was the head of a recruiting firm and responsible for bringing in all the business. How can we really scale this? And great businesses have great people. That's not just a cliche. And I miss working with people. I mean, this is one of the reasons this is so nice for me. Sometimes I get to meet the people. I'm used to a remote work culture. So that hands-on time is nice. But what I'd really like is to have, a few people who are helping me with research. I want to create strategy. I want to be working with people at a high level. But, what I would love would be some kind of situation where somebody comes on board. We work, develop, okay, who are you? What problems can you solve? What are your top 20, 40 companies? And I would love to have two or three people who are researching those companies, looking for ways in beyond a posted job description, but really coming up with, okay, here's a strategy for all 20 of these companies. Here's who I know. Here's who you know. Let's come at it from all sides. That to me would be, a lot of fun and, tremendous value to somebody.
Yeah, I can tell. Sounds exciting also. And, of course, whenever we're aiming towards the next chapter, there's always something we're refining in the present. So what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now?
Well, we talked about time management. I have a lot of ideas. I think about things in 6 steps. I have modules for each, workbooks, handouts. I'm always coming up with something, but the balance is not to overwhelm people. So figuring out how to simplify it into you can dive deep into everything I've learned over nearly 30 years on every side of the hiring fence, or we can start with, okay, 3 steps. What do we do right now? And some people, they want to get into everything. And people with a product background or engineering, they want to get deep into AI and all these, and build a system. Other people, they're new to this and they want to start very slowly. And it has to be, okay, let's come up with 1, 2, 3 things that we do this week. So for me, part of the challenge is meeting my client where they are and, sharing at the level that they can really maximize and live with and not overwhelming them. So for me, that's what I'm trying to really tighten up.
Interesting. So they can have the best outcome considering efficiency also. Something like that to we use the best way you can use time if it's so limited.
Exactly. I mean, I don't love the cliche. You can't boil the ocean, but I mean, there's never been a truer image than that. And, for some people are going to be much better off looking at 5 to 10 companies to begin with, someone to start with 50 methods for researching for an entry point into those companies. I have 10, 12 different ways, but I like to start people with two and let them guide me when they're ready for a third and a fourth. And that's something I learned early on. It really surprised me when I started working with people that you could have two people, same situation, and one is ready for one pace and then one is ready for 5 times that pace. And nothing in their background would tell you that. It's only when you get to know them.
Yeah, I get that. It's like sometimes we kind of like for me, for example, we're talking about I need to exercise more, right? If I change it
No, you don't.
from, well, let's say I do, which I do.
Neither of us. If you don't have to, then I don't have to.
Okay. But let's say I want to hit the gym and I need to start slow, right? At least me. But some people might just hit everything at once and it works for them. So we have to find that perfect balance to respect people's boundaries, if that makes any sense, right?
I don't have the gym issue. I just play pickleball.
Okay. I want to tap into your experience a little bit here for a second because people listening can really benefit from this, Larry. You've been in the game long enough to hear all kinds of business advice, right? Some that sticks, some that really doesn't. So, what's one piece of business advice you hear all the time that you think is overrated or misunderstood?
A great question. Let me answer it this way. The advice that people are looking for typically is all related to applying for jobs, going through a system that's created by companies. What I see out there with almost everyone I talk to, whether I'm interviewing them, whether they're a client, whether I'm having a discovery call, talking to a recruiter about their experiences, what I am seeing most often is that people are approaching their career, their job search from the perspective of somebody who's applying for something, somebody who's trying to get an opportunity bestowed upon them. And, usually starting with an ad, getting in line, going through a process. I have no issue with ads, but where I want to start people is, get out of the whole applicant mindset. Because if you're 10 years into a specific industry, working with specific products and customers, you solve problems. You're a problem solver. So where I start is let's focus on what problems you solve and go from there. And with that foundation, that usually dictates what your research method is, how you engage with companies, how you interview and present yourself in interviews, and how you close in negotiations every single step of the way. So I don't know if that's exactly what you are asking. That to me is the fundamental business problem when it comes down to search. 95% of people are doing the same thing, fishing in the same fishing hole with ads that maybe are 30% of the problems that exist. There's a whole world out there where a professional who has some depth in their industry can focus on. That's what I'm trying to help people uncover.
I like that. Really like that because it's somewhat it sounds like I'm not saying it's exactly that you're kind of I would say myth busting the job application idea and getting to the real identity of the person who's applying. It's like, hey, you're solving X, Y, and Z. You're not just searching for X, Y, and Z. It depends on the lens you're looking at. It can, extend the search. I love that. I mean, was that something like that? Did I got
When
that
you
right?
think about it, 100%, and when you think about it, your typical professional who works, say, let's just say 40 years of their life. How much time do they really spend job searching or trying to get to a new? I mean, it is it's a single digit portion, it doesn't even cross people's mind until they have to do it most of the time, until there's some cause that's causing them to have to do it. So then they go and they take a look and they try to figure it out on the spot, and nobody really knows how to do it most effectively. I mean, for some people it comes to them, but what do they typically do? Well, they go and they say, okay, I need a resume. They look online. Here's 300 pieces of advice that are all at odds with each other. Information's information. I mean, LinkedIn has just become, you and your listeners, know. I mean, there's good information, there's bad, there's worse, and then there's levels of worse information on LinkedIn. So yeah, myth busting. I do get on my soapbox occasionally, and there are some saints out there who are busting the myths every single day that people are putting on LinkedIn. But yeah, I think of it more as, there's a whole game to getting hired and getting what you want. If you could learn the rules of the game, learn what companies are doing, how they make decisions, how they eliminate risk when they make decisions, you're going to be much further ahead of the game than somebody who doesn't get any of that.
Interesting. And on the other side, Larry, what's a piece of advice you wish more people actually took seriously?
Get really into AI in your job search. I think at this point, maybe 1% of people are truly getting the full value of it. You're using it to generate content, cover letters, resume, maybe some research, which is great, but you should have it being tied into every single thing that you're doing, how to interpret situations, because, and I was just having this conversation with somebody today. AI is not, its purpose, its skill is not generating content, it's learning. So everything from your search, it can learn from. Every single thing that happens, you dump it in. Don't worry if it's too much. You'll never overload the system. Start chats for every job and use AI to contain your operating system, to continuously look for new ways to keep forward momentum. And that's how you use it as your true counselor. And that's something that I help people build those operating systems and really extract the value, out of that, which is the truest game changer since the first job board went up 20 years ago.
Interesting. Okay. I want to switch gears for a second and do something a bit more fun. None of this was not fun. We're having a blast, but if you're down for it, I got a quick
this was
game
not
for
fun. No, this was not fun, Pedro. I'm ready for the real fun.
Okay, here it comes. So hold your horses. We're going to have fun now. We're going to play a quick game. You're down for it?
Yeah. Come on.
Okay. Let's do it. We'll look at this through the lens of business investments, okay? In the coaching business, your coaching business. So things like coaching, training, marketing, team, masterminds, you name it, okay? Pretty simple. I'll give you 4 prompts and you tell me the first thing that comes into mind. If there's a story behind
this doesn't sound that fun.
No? Okay.
We're
going to do it anyway. You're my hostage and I command this pace, Larry. It's not going to be fun then. Okay? I'm just going to be super serious.
Let's pretend to have some fun. All right.
Okay. Let's pretend. Okay. I like that. What's the first business investment you remember making in your coaching business?
Wow. I think, God, this is crazy. I don't even know if there was money involved, but when I was like 6 years old, I worked with my next door neighbor and we built a carnival in my backyard, and we came up with all these tickets and like used our wagon for like a ride and everything and invited the neighborhood. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if there's any money involved, but I invested a lot of time in that carnival. And I'm not sure if too many people came other than the ones who put it together.
Okay. You're putting your workshops and webinars out there when you were 6. That's basically what I got it from it, right?
Yeah. You got to blow off steam.
Okay. And what's the most recent one you made? Business investment?
Definitely. My website, certainly getting that redone in Wix and professionalize it. It's amazing. If you don't work on something 2 years, how horrible it is. I'm working with the Opni Group and Daniel Botero and his team. They have been fantastic as far as supporting me, holding me accountable, helping me get all my, crazy ideas into something that I can actually offer people and keeping me on track and helping me, scale as we get to certain milestones. So yeah, those are the two biggest ones, probably in reverse order.
I like that. They're trying to put the next Carnival into play, so it really happens. And the point where you're scaling and reaching those milestones. I love that. Okay.
100%. 100%. So support in your job search and your business, so important. I can't do things alone.
And what's the best financial business investment you have made and why?
Probably quitting the agency that I worked for 20 years, which, I probably thought about and suffered through for 5 or 6 years. It was a family business. There was some toxicity to it. And looking back, those last 5 years in which I tried it from a consultant and I, stuck around when ownership shifted, was really just delaying the inevitable and me to take a leap into coaching, which I wanted to do, but I really didn't know it was something that you could really do, and it was different, and I was afraid. But a really good guy named Tamer Zaman gave me a piece of advice, which was you just got to throw your hat over the wall at some point, and then it's done. You have to go. You have to go over the wall. You have to get your hat, put it on your head, and you're not going back. Yeah, the day I broke through of all that, released a ton of weight on my head.
I love that, man. You have that way of considering taking action as an investment. And I really like that because it's not just about money, right? When you organize the backyard carnival, it's taking action. When you're like, oh, I quit what I was doing, that's taking action. I really like that.
Leaving the firm where I spent 20 years was definitely not about rushing to the money. Yeah, if anything, it was the opposite, but it had to be done. You have to make a break at some point or you just aren't going to move forward.
Okay. And last but not least, let's see if this is fun. What's one investment you wish you could get your money back on?
That I wish I could get my money back on. God, tough one. Very, very few. I mean, I've just been so lucky. I mean, I haven't gotten rich off different investments. I mean, I bought high, I sold low, my house, but it wasn't about money. It was about getting my kids into the right schools, and then they got into the right colleges, and now they're flourishing. So, some things that look like poor maneuvers at the time, if what you're focused on is that big picture, not the money, but what you're really trying to get, then usually, the money part is just a temporary blip. And yeah,
Okay.
maybe I shouldn't own 11 laptops that are sitting in a corner, 9 of them that don't work. Yeah, maybe I should have invested in one every 5 to 10 years that really lasts. But, again, it's, it was a little bit fun.
What's the name of that show? Hoarders? Is that it? Finally, we're having some fun. I thought.
So it sounds like my wife is going to be your next guest.
Okay, Larry, looking at those, how has your approach to invest in the business changed over the years, if it has?
Yeah. Next will be a substantial investment in, marketing support. Again, I'm working full time. I love what I do. I don't want to change that, but, at the same time, it gives me limited time and space to really follow up, at the level with the velocity that I really want to do and connect with the prospective clients. That will be, next. And I'm researching different ways to get help, virtual assistants, electronic marketing. You have contacts in both. Right now, that's going to be a very, very careful investment because I don't want to even think about changing directions 30 days in. I, want to lock down on something long term.
Yeah, you prefer 20 years, right?
20 years would be good. Then I would only be like 200 years old after 20 years. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I worked here 20 years. I think this is not working, guys.
yeah, 12 months would be good. That's the thing with marketing when you're not a professional marketer. You're just so prone to look at very short cycles. And of course, it's like turning around your financial situation when you're upside down. You're going to make investments into it. it's going to look painful in your bank account for a couple of months, but once you stabilize, growth starts happening at 90 days, and you're not going to go backward if you're doing the right things from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's changing so much right now. And there's so much noise, right, on how to pick the right person, the right agency, and all of that. But yeah, 100%. And Larry, I love that. And if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, Larry at Way Beyond Resumes. My LinkedIn, there's plenty of room for a couple 100,000 additional followers, and I will talk to anybody who connects and wants to start a conversation.
There were a few things you shared today that really stuck with me, Larry. I would say, first of all, I've never talked with a beta user from LinkedIn. I love that. I mean, you had some inside intel, right? So in the early days, and that's pretty awesome. It must have been such a sight to see it changing, and sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, right? So I really like that. And the fact that you're able to change that lens, the applicant mindset you mentioned for your clients or potential clients, right? Sometimes they're like just looking at the job application, but they need to look at themselves like problem solvers. I really like that, man. That's really interesting. And also,
it is the fundamental, most powerful shift. Once you make that shift, every other thing you do in your job search, you can always just come back to that and find the answer.
yeah, it's like, to me, like I did that in the past. It sounds like I'm not trying to fit in that box. I'm exploding the box. I'm like looking at myself now and see where I fit. It's kind of a different mindset, I think, at least what I'm trying to grasp here. Is that somewhat like that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of your show. Since I discovered it a couple months ago, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and yeah, there's just amazing knowledge coming in.
Awesome. Appreciate you. And last but not least, I would say you were picking leads at 6, right? When we're talking about workshops and webinars, Larry was handling a carnival. And, I'm in Brazil, Larry. The carnival is happening in like 2 weeks.
I didn't say carnival. Yeah.
I know. I'm just kidding with you. Okay. I mean, Larry, I appreciate what you do, man. I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. It was great having you on.
Thank you. Thank you. Anytime, Pedro. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.